This is an after-school program podcast.
Welcome to the Home Studio Hangout podcast, where we explore what it's like building, running, and working out of a home studio with your hosts, Joshua Matotek, Andrew Simmons, and many guests in different areas of the music industry.
Welcome back to Home Studio Hangout. Today we got a good buddy of mine, amazing drummer, amazing producer, amazing mix engineer, Shane Nelson, on the couch with us today.
On the couch.
On the couch. Dude, this is inaugural first in-person podcast.
Yeah, so it's probably my fault. You texted me and was like, "Hey man, you want to be on the podcast?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't Zoom though, so we gotta. I gotta come to you."
Yeah. Can we figure this out? I was like, "Yeah, dude, it's all good. We got way too many cameras in this building.
We have like a straight up freaking broadcast looking camera thing on me, and I'm like, man, I feel like I should have a makeup crew.
Dude, right?
Like, I should have really gotten ready for this instead of just rolling out of bed in the pants
10
I had on.
10 a.m. just,
yo, what up, y'all? I didn't even tie my shoes. What's up?
But for the audience, Shane has been doing some really great work. Bands like Paris Bridge, artists like Israel Houghton and Kylie Odetta.
Yeah. Isaiah Haran, we just hit 1.5 million streams.
Heck yeah, dude.
On a song.
Congrats.
And his EP has been mastered and ready to come out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude, it's been a wild ride.
Dude, yeah. And especially for you, it's really been like the last year or so.
Really like the last 6 to 8 months.
Really?
But the last year.
You can see it's like, the last year was like when you started really working with Paris Bridge, and then like from there and like a couple other artists. I think you did some stuff for Kylie, but I think that's when you started tracking.
I've been
her.
playing drums with Kylie for 6 years.
Yeah.
And no one go listen to this. Don't listen to Paris Bridge's older stuff, but I've been working with Paris Bridge since they started. So like we used to do it literally in my house, in my bedroom.
Nice.
And those things Ghost Stories sounds terrible. And I tell them every time they come to the studio, because their new stuff, I feel like sounds really good.
It is really good.
But
they've also shifted their sound a lot since then too. So it helps whenever, I think they definitely shifted their sound to something that makes a lot more sense to you.
Yeah, they embrace their like big heavy drums, like big thrashing guitars.
Their indiness.
I live in that. Yeah. I live in that world. So, but yeah, I apologize to them. Literally, they were at the studio a couple weeks ago doing a new song, and I apologize to them every time. I'm like, yo, I'm so sorry for how Ghost Stories and really the whole I'm Doing Fine and all those, they sound like trash. The first EP, it sounds okay. It's got charm, which is the only thing that saves it for me. Like it's got this
and the songs are really good.
Yeah, the songs are great.
They did a good job writing.
The new ones are much better. So don't listen to anything past the newest EP. But yeah, dude, their stuff is, we've really been able to just like experiment with stuff and have a good time. It's almost like we've just found their sound together.
For sure.
So awesome. And then like bringing people on, like you've been doing some stuff with them, like with me, which is really cool, which I really enjoy because I mean I love programming, but
not really your thing, dude.
Not programming like full on heavy songs. It's not my vibe. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the works. We're actually working on some stuff with Kylie.
That's cool.
Revamping live shows. Okay. For like a post-COVID world. And I'm not positive, but I think our first show will be like Fall for Greenville or something.
Okay.
So we're really trying to like swing for the fences. We've never worked with Ableton Live, like
I got you.
Ableton Live.
I got you.
Which I'm great with Ableton, like, but we've never just utilized it for tracks.
Yeah.
It's always just been like me and Kylie and Tim, and that's it. And we just kind of go out there and play, and whatever tempo I'm feeling at that moment is what we play it at.
Yeah. I'm helping Chris build out the Ghost Inside set because they're switching over to Ableton.
Yeah.
And I'm helping Heirloom. I'm basically like every band that I'm working with right now is like,
you got to get like me where you're just like, all right, here's your stems. Like, boom, I'm not doing anything else.
Yeah, I'm like helping them set up all of that. Well, they're going for like metal is a little different than like pop music in this sense. It's like they're going for like patch changes via MIDI. They're going for like
they're
light
going
board
like
switching,
full
like
on,
very.
They're going like periphery with it.
Yeah, very, because they don't want to touch anything.
Yeah,
they want to
just
like
walk out there and strum your guitar.
They
want
to play and they want to interact with the crowd.
Yep,
because it's all about that crowd interaction.
That's cool.
Live. So
I remember first hearing about that. I was watching this video of like Misha Mansour doing like a walkthrough of what they do live, and like they're running Axe Effects, and like there's a Pro Tool. They're running Pro Tools, and it's like a rig off stage, and they literally like one of them hits a space bar and they walk out and play the entire show. There's no pedal boards on stage, like there's nothing, and I'm just like, this is cool. But Kylie's thing was like, if you see her live, and you like listen to her music, it's a huge
very
disconnect.
Different. Yeah, it's very different.
So like she's like, if you listen to her stuff, you're like, oh, this girl's a pop artist. Like, huge pop songs.
Yeah.
And then you hear her live, and it's like a drummer. And when I play with her,
it
it's
feels
like
more like a blues.
Kick, snare,
it feels more like a blues kind of.
Yeah, like a jazzy something.
Yeah.
Tim's playing bass, and then Kylie is like
on keys,
singing. But like half of the time, like So she was like, I really want to get it to where we can kind of mesh the. I don't want it. She's like, I don't really. Her pet peeve is like sounding just like the record live. So she's like, I really want like live arrangements of my songs. And I don't want them to lean as far into the pop world. And I want to still, but I still want to like maintain like the organic, like natural thing that we do. I just want it to come to be more, I want it to be more consistent.
You know,
and
who
then
does
I want
that
it to
really
be like
well that I've seen on a very obviously super high level.
Ben Rector for me.
Bieber.
Yeah, Bieber does it too.
Kills, and it has to do with the fact that he obviously writes his songs in a vacuum with pop writers and producers.
Yep.
And then live, he's like, I'm gonna bring in the best like shredders
his
that
drummer
he can find.
His drummer Devin is like insane.
His guitarist is just wild, dude. Jules,
it's insane.
We talked about a lot of them on Lee's episode that we did. My buddy Lee, who works with Teddy Swims.
Yep.
He does. He knows a bunch of them just like from being in that area.
For me, Ben Rector is like Ben Rector and Justin Timberlake are both the kings of doing that.
Oh yeah,
because
sure.
Ben Rector, it's easier to hear because you can go to Ben Rector's like whatever the record that Kids is on, Extraordinary Magic or something like that. You can listen to that and then listen to the live record version of that, and they sound like you can recognize the song.
It's the same song,
but then you hear like drums come in, like real drums, and you're like, ooh,
yeah.
And then he'll do like the reimagined versions, that are like super funky in the studio. Like it's just an interesting thing. But check out Kylie Odetta when we finally start playing shows again. Yeah, because I think we're having a good time.
Heck yeah, dude.
We basically like meet once a week at my studio, and we'll sit together and just tear a song apart
and like work on a live version of it.
Yeah, we do like a 3-hour session every week.
That's awesome.
And it's like Kylie's the kind of girl who's like super. Here's what we're gonna do for the first hour. Here's what we're gonna do for the second hour. Here's what we're gonna do for the third hour.
Yeah, because she's playing. Well, it's also a little different whenever you're playing more. I don't want to call them bar sets, but they're set up like bar sets.
Yeah, it's like we're putting together like a 45-minute show, an hour-and-a-half show. Like typically we'll either do a 45 or an hour and a half.
But then there's sometimes where like she gets asked to play 3 because it's an event or something like that, and she's the only person.
Or it'll be a festival, and we got 30 minutes. And so it's like we played the Spartanburg before. I mean, COVID's. I completely blocked that year out of my brain. So it seems like last year, but it was realistically like 2 years ago, 3 years ago for the Melting Pot Festival.
Okay.
And played a 30-minute set.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, okay.
Feels like nothing. Yeah. Breezes right by.
Walked in, sat down. They had a house kit. Was trash. Like
tuned it up real quick.
I had 3 minutes to tune it, and then like, hey, can I get the kick? Okay, now snare, rack tom, floor tom, great.
You're
Kylie
tuning
keys.
while you're
and I'm like,
mic
okay,
checking.
yeah, sick. And then we played, and then it was like, okay, we're out of here. See you later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty cool. I don't know. It's fun doing my job because I get to be in the studio with her, and I've done a lot more work than you think I have done for Kylie.
Yeah.
Mix and master one song.
I'm about to say, I know you mastered a lot of her stuff for a while.
Mastered a lot of her stuff, and then now we're on top of these live shows. We're currently working on like acoustic EP is not the right wording.
A reimagined EP.
It's really how we play the songs live. It's like
okay, that's cool.
What we sound like live EP. To another words for just trying to bridge that gap. And they're also the songs that I started playing with Kylie with, like 6 years ago.
Like
my first rehearsal.
Songs.
Yeah, songs that are not out, songs that we do at every show that people know that if you go to a Kylie show, you're gonna hear this song. But even with our reimagined shows, we're not. She's like, all right, we almost for 5 years have almost always ended with this one song. She's like, all right, we're not playing that song anymore.
But you got to put it out because people want it.
We're putting it out. She's like, we're going to put it out, but then we're probably not going to play it for a while. And she's going through we went through her whole repertoire and was like, okay, what songs we want to do? She's at that point where she doesn't have to do covers. Yeah. Because she's got 50 songs we could choose from. Yeah. But we still wanted to do some covers. So it's what covers do we want to do?
Throw in some familiarity.
To my dismay, she took out some covers that I really loved doing. But she was like, nah, her thing that she has said to me 100 times in the last month is we're not coming back from COVID and just doing the same thing. We're not going to have the same live show. She's like, if we've sat for a year and haven't done something different, then I've failed as an artist. And I'm like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah, she wants that progression. I totally get that.
Which I'm with her, and that seems to be like what a lot of people are doing.
For sure.
Even with like the Israel stuff, the songs that I've mixed have been like,
oh,
somebody's hungry.
Yeah.
The songs that I've mixed of Israel's are like complete opposite of what you would think Israel and New Breed is.
Yes, but
yeah, there's still a flare of it.
There's still a flare of it, and I don't know. I've followed Israel for a minute, and his studio albums are always way more pop focused and more clean than his live records.
Which I tend to prefer his live records.
Yeah, exactly. So his live records
that energy. It's
yes. Well, and his live records are generally the ones that do better.
Yep, they are. But I mean, it was weird. The whole story of like, I mixed Risen, the remix off of Feels Like Home Volume 2. Yep. And it was just kind of like interesting to listen to that whole record and then get to that last song because it's completely different.
Really?
Like I know Feels Like Home Volume 1 and 2, I'm fairly positive, like 98% positive there were no vocal overdubs done. Like you can hear vocals. I know he tracked it with a 58. Like it sounds like a 58. Yeah. And it's like pretty dark. Like there's tons of bleed. The drums don't sound, they sound like roomy drums because you got New Breed in there. So there's like 20 hot vocal mics at all times. And so it's like impossible to get a killer drum sound. But
and then yours is like the sheeniest like pop thing.
Straight up like The Middle by Zed and Marimore. It's like rip it. Yeah. It was just funny. Which another weird thing is I mastered that song too. So like I mixed and mastered it going on a record that I had nothing else to do with.
That's a little weird for me. I
thought it was weird too, but hey, like
it could be a common thing, but as far as I know, that's not a common thing.
As far as I know, you want to get one mastering engineer
for the whole project, and it just kind of glues everything together.
But then I did He's a Wonder with Chandler and Israel, and didn't master that one, just mixed it and sent it off.
Heck yeah.
Which we didn't do any revisions on Risen.
That one. Nice.
We did a few on He's a Wonder because it was a little bit more picky.
Yeah.
This was one specific thing Israel was super picky about, which I haven't talked to Israel through the whole thing. I've just talked to the producer.
Yeah.
And so the producer was like, yeah, Israel's wanting to hear this one specific delay throw. If you go listen to the song, and he says, na, 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 I have seen what you can do with broken things like me. And there's that me. It's not like a dedicated rhythm. It's like just a weird delay. And so it's a throw, and that's the only point it shows up in the song.
It's a throw, and it only happens once, and it's probably not synced or anything. It's just like
synced. He said, the producer told me, hey, Israel wants this one throw on me, and he said, me. And I was like, okay, great. I'll do it really quick. And that was the revision that he wanted. Yeah. And so it was like, man, but the weird thing about that is I've had two separate people from completely different areas in my life who, number one, I didn't even know that they listen to that kind of music. Number two, come to me and say, yo, that little echo thing that you did on Israel's vocal in that first verse is the sickest thing I've ever heard. And I was like,
yeah.
Wait a minute.
One weird revision.
Yeah. And it was the last one. We did 4 revisions. And like the thing with this specific producer that did this song, it's Isaiah. The thing with Isaiah is he's a freak for background vocals.
Like his arrangements are
dope. But a lot of his stuff lives on background vocals.
Yeah, it does. It's all of their songs and anything you can tell if he's produced a song because it's
you can tell he did Risen and He's a Wonder because it's like so background vocal heavy.
It's background vocal forward, like the mix he wants it kind of forward.
They're so loud. The first 2 revisions I go through on every Isaiah song is like, yeah, can you turn the background vocals up? I need them more present. I need them brighter. I need them with more reverb and delay.
Yeah, you basically got to treat them like leads.
Yeah, that's literally what he says. He's like, with He's a Wonder, he was like, which that was kind of a challenge in and of itself because I'll preface it with all the Isaiah stuff that I get is like a kick, a snare, a bass guitar, maybe a shaker, couple synth tracks.
And then
maybe a few guitars,
vocals,
80 tracks of vocals.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy moly.
Yeah.
But
you're looking at 100 tracks and 80% of them are vocals.
Risen was like 150 tracks and it was like 100 of them were vocals. Not really. That's a super huge exaggeration. Yeah. But the good thing is, for any of you guys out there, Isaiah works in Ableton. And so he works in groups. And so he'll send me like, this is what I'll get in stems. He just bounces everything out. So he'll be like BV1, BV2, BV3, BV4, BV5, BV6, all the way to like 19.
And then the group.
And then there's a BV group.
And so you get his blend.
I get his blend. I get his reverb and delay. I get whatever he wants it to sound like. And I'm like, I work in Pro Tools. So I'm like, okay, hide and make inactive these 19 tracks. I'm just going to use this one.
Yeah.
And so I narrow that down to like those 50 tracks of vocals become 3 or 4.
And I think on both
panning
sides,
everything.
Yeah, I was gonna say on both sides, there's something to be said for I think we were just talking about this on the producer side, like printing what you want to send to a mix engineer if you're not mixing it, and on the mix engineer side, being okay with just getting printed stuff.
Yeah, I
like,
would honestly rather that.
I know, me too. But like some guys are like so controlled. You know what I mean? It's like they want everying dry.
I had a guy one time. So I did a record with a band that did pretty well, and they had a guy approach them about mixing it for free, and I was like, cool. And he had a couple names under his belt that I was like, sure, if he's gonna do it for free, like go for it.
Yeah.
So they asked me to send him the raw stems, and I was like, okay, cool. So I'm stingy. I'm not gonna send my samples. I'm not gonna send my like any processing that I do on it. Especially when I'm sending them raw. Well, this specific band, I tracked mono overhead because it was like old school Metallica heavy metal, like Pantera, Megadeth.
Yeah.
Which means so much guitar information happening.
Yeah, it's hard to get
There's no way I'm going to get cymbals to be in that mix.
Yeah.
So in order to save myself the hassle, because I'm also a recording engineer, I'm thinking ahead and I'm like, great, I'm just going to ribbon mic this middle of the drum kit. It's going to be great.
Very like slightly, maybe use a stereo plugin on it to like.
Didn't even do that when I mixed it. Like I just turned the fader up and put some high end on it because it's a ribbon mic.
Yeah.
But
it's going to sound good and not too crazy on the high end.
Yeah. And the guitar sat really well. I think that mix is like really solid. So the lead singer, I'm talking to the lead singer and he's like, yeah, can you get me the stems, whatever. So I sent him the stems and he calls me and he was like, this is one of the only instances where I've had to feel like, or I felt like I've had to be a butthole about something. Because normally like you try not to be, you try to be super accommodating. So we're getting ready to track. So basically he wanted to mix this song as an audition for them so that he could mix their record that we were about to track.
Yeah.
So it calls me and he was like, hey man, this isn't the engineer, this is the lead singer. He's like, hey man, the guy who's going to mix it wants to know if you take any suggestions for setting up microphones. And I was like, no, I don't. And he was like, oh, okay, well, never mind then. I was like, what is he suggesting? He was like, yeah, he wants you to double mic the guitar amps, and he wants you to do stereo overheads, and he wants like this, and this. And I was like, no, which is like, that's kind of unheard of. Like, you don't do that kind of stuff. If I was as a mix engineer, some of the stuff I've gotten that has millions of streams is garbage. Like, and that's my job, is they're paying me to make it sound good.
Yeah.
Like, I got these stems from this one guy, and I'm trying to do really good about not naming names.
Yeah.
But I got these stems from this one guy, and it sounded like they were recorded in a tile bathroom.
Yeah, I've gotten those before.
And then I see...
It's so echoey.
I see this Instagram of this guy working with the artist that I'm working with.
Mm-hmm.
And she literally has a microphone and Ableton rig set up like on the sink in a bathroom. And I'm like, oh, that's why.
It's
like that.
Literally in a bathroom.
Isotope to the rescue. You know what I mean?
Dude.
Like, but
that vocal D-noise.
D-reverb, like whatever.
D-verb, D-hum, all of it.
But anyway, it was just like, no.
Yeah, don't do that.
You get what you get.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not like my tracks are like really terribly recorded. Like, I'm a big proponent of like, it's got to sound like a record as we're going. Mm-hmm. Like, I want it to sound like a record. Sure. And I also wanted to be like... It
keeps you inspired as the tracking engineer. It keeps them inspired as the artist.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is what this is going to sound like. If they say, yeah, we want to do like a telephone effect on the vocal right here, I'm like, great, you're going to track through it. Like, I'm going to do it right now, and you're going to sing through it, because it really will change the way you respond and sing.
Yeah.
So that's the only time I've been like, no.
Have you bought one of those telephones yet?
The copper microphone or whatever it is, or the telephone microphone?
The telephone microphone.
No, but I do have a tin can mic.
Oh, that's really cool.
Because
I'm thinking about buying one of those telephone microphones, just because I feel like there's just an extra something by tracking through it.
I just
that
do
would
DSP.
Be fun.
I just do DSP.
I mean, I know
Sans amp.
I know
on the way in,
but it just sounds like I think the activity of holding a literal telephone would change the way that they would perform.
So that record that we did, the singer wanted to like hold a 7B and run around the room, and I let him, and it was great.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Which we just tracked their next record like literally 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't want to do that this time." Yeah, it's like, cool, great, whatever you want to do.
Yeah,
but it was it was just, I was like, man, you need to, I don't know. So, total side note, I'm not trying to dog this guy. Haven't told you who he was, but not trying to make him sound bad.
Yeah,
but
just don't do that.
They sent me his mix of the song that I sent the tracks for at the audition, and I tried not to say anything. Like, I've learned that with this kind of stuff, you don't give your opinion until you're asked for it.
Yep.
So these guys have become my friends. We've tracked 2 records and a single together. Like, we've spent a lot of time together. So he was like, "What do you think?" And I was like, "What do you think?" And he was like, "I effing hate it." And I was like, "Yeah, it sounds terrible."
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
This dude, it sounded like, I can't pinpoint what he did because it's that bad.
Oh, God.
But it sounded like he took the drums, which this band number 1 I don't edit him 100% to the grid. Like, he's a pretty loose drummer, but that contributes to the vibe. Like, you think they edited Lars Ulrich to the grid? Yeah. They didn't have a grid back then.
Yeah.
Like, so it was like, no, I didn't. I mean, I beat detected him, but I didn't go 100%. I touched up the guitars a little bit, but it wasn't
like 70%.
75, like whatever. Some stuff I pushed back in time, like
to get it off the beat on
more
purpose.
Groovy.
Yeah.
But they're very groovy, and so it was like, it sounded like this guy just took like Drumagog or whatever, SSD5 or something, and layered in like drums underneath it that weren't like triggering like from his drums.
So it's
that
not
were
like so it's not like he used Trigger to like trigger
it's
off
like
of...
he typed it in with MIDI, and it was 100% on the grid, and it was playing under like a rhythm and a lead drum. Like, it was the most like jarring thing I had ever heard.
All these flams all over the place.
My God.
Kick flams.
Different fills happening, like, and then the guitars were like, I don't know, thin, and the vocals sounded stupid, and I was just like, so we went to lunch. That was the first day that we were tracking the record, and I'm under the assumption I'm just tracking it now. Like, which is fine. Like you can pay me.
Yeah,
to do
it's
that.
whatever.
So we go to lunch. We're sitting at the La Paria down the road from my studio. And this is when he asked me, what do you think about it? And I was like, well, I think it sounds like butt. Like, I think it sounds terrible. And I think you're not going to be happy with the record. And he was like, how much is it going to cost for you to mix the record? And I told him, and he was like, done. All right. He's like, I'll call this guy and tell him he's out.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't mean to take this guy's job from him, but
dude, if it's bad though, I mean,
it's bad. And
if it's bad, it's bad. And if your artist is looking for a certain standard, you know, and most people know, and most people can tell, like they can, within that situation, they can literally hear your tracking mix is better than his mix.
It was, and I was like, whether or not I take all my processing off, when you get stems from me, you put them in whatever DAW you're using. Yeah, it's gonna sound exactly like what we were listening to in the room when we were tracking, which is what a general pretty good idea of what a mix should sound like. I usually don't send a rough mix if someone else is mixing the project.
Yeah, you let them kind of do their thing. Don't want to give them predetermined.
Right. Here's the stems.
I hate that. Yeah.
Like, here's the stems. When you hit play, it's gonna sound like what we were listening to. So think about that.
Yeah.
But as a mix engineer, I probably should be doing that kind of stuff, like sending people rough mixes, because I love when I get rough mixes.
Yeah, maybe. I think it just really depends on the project. So if it's like, if the producer is, if you're an Isaiah and it's super particular,
Isaiah sends rough mixes and he's super particular.
I want a rough mix. But if they're not that particular, and
if
they're
it's like Paris Bridge, we're doing it from scratch. We don't have a rough mix, but I'm mixing it, so I was in the room the whole time, so I know like what we want.
Yeah, exactly.
But with Israel stuff, like they send a rough mix. Isaiah's just funny. Like I have so many funny Isaiah stories. It's just like he's not picky. He's particular. Like there's a huge difference.
Yeah, there is a huge difference.
Like he's not just blindly like, I don't know what I want. Blah, 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 blah. He knows what he wants. Yeah. He might not know like the technical definition. So I told you I was going to be burping through this whole thing and I'm just going to do it in the mic. Isaiah's funny. He's like, he knows a lot. He's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. And we did, I think it was Self, which is out. You can go listen to it on Spotify. It's the one that just hit 1.5 million streams. Like wild. Which I got to tell you something about that in a minute. But I did the mix. And he was like, close. It's so close. And this is what he said to me. I got to talk to you like Isaiah talks to me. Hey, man, we're there. One thing. I need the background vocals wetter, but also drier. And I was like my eye, like kind of
yeah. It's like, oh god.
Excuse me, what? That's part of the job, though. You have to be able to translate this kind of stuff. So in my brain, I'm thinking, okay. Then I was like,
so my brain automatically goes to, it needs more tail, but it needs to be drier on the front.
Yes. So it needs pre-delay, and it needs
pre-delay,
like
And whatever. You need to separate the main vocal from the verb.
Yes. And so in my mind, I'm thinking like, I was like, okay, can you explain it to me further? Like, just give me some more adjectives. So what's going on? He's like, I need them like punchy, but I need them to be swimming at the same time. And I'm like, should have led with that. That's better.
Yeah, should have led with that. Thinking, that's like, a way better description.
Okay, I'm going to distort these vocals like tastefully, and then I'm going to pre-delay the crap out of them. So it's no secret everyone's using Valhalla right now. So I'm using like vintage verb.
Oh, out the waz, bro.
Crank the pre-delay like almost as far as the knob will go. And then I used I can't remember what I used to distort. I think I used like a parallel send of like Radiator from Sound Toys.
Radiator's awesome.
Or it might have been Devil Lock. I don't remember. It was something Sound Toys because it was either red or green. I don't remember which one it was. But so I sent it to him and he's like, yes, that's it. And then he goes, hey man, I got something else for these background vocals. He's so particular about his background vocals. He's like, okay, great. Yeah. Okay, that's it. We got the verb right. Now I need them. I can't even. He's like, okay, if you used a plate, I want you to use a hall. but if you used a haul, I want you to use a plate. I'm like, okay. So meaning, translation, I want the reverb to sound different.
Yeah.
And I'm like, great, cool. Like,
Yeah,
you don't want that
yeah,
spanky, metallic-y plate sound. If it's a plate, you want it to be crisp and clean. He just wanted to hear something different. So I think I used a plate. I think I had the Valhalla on like the now setting on a plate, like a 1.5 second like
throw it on that vintage hall.
I put it on the 70s hall, super dark, and then he was like, I like that. But
that's where I start.
Yeah, I mean, it's the stock thing for a reason.
Stock is so good.
It was cool. He's really particular, but he's hilarious. Like, and it's one of the weird things with him is like, and Israel, like things are really not that much Israel, but things are always changing. The arrangement is changing as I'm mixing it, because with Risen, it has that chop in there, that vocal chop, and what I was sent a blend of 3 different chops, but I was like in a group, but I was also sent like the 3 separate chops. So no mix revisions at all, but he was like, hey, it just wants you to mute that low octave chop because we think it's just a little too busy. And so at that point I just processed like the group together the track, and I was like, crap. Now I've got to go. I'm thinking in my head, like, now I have to go like recreate what he did on the 2 individual tracks, because I can't just take the low octave out. But turns out he just gripped it and didn't do anything to it. So I just like unmuted them, put them in a group, and then just did the same processing that I did on the track. It was fine. But with Isaiah stuff, like so now working with Isaiah, he sends me like all his artists that he's producing as well.
That's awesome.
To mix, which is great. Like word of mouth is truly the best way to get business. But working on this one specific song, and it's like, in my mind, it's one of the coolest songs that I've worked on. I think it's just sick.
Is it one of his or just an artist?
It's another artist that he's producing, and he was singing like verse 2.
Oh, okay.
And I've mixed I've completely mixed it. Sent it to him. We've done like 2 or 3 rounds of revisions, got it solid, and now he's like, yeah, I'm not going to be featured on this song anymore, so can I just send you like another guy's vocal and you like put it in there, drop
it in that verse? And
I'm like, yeah, sure. And then he's like, there's been other songs where it's like I've mixed it and he's like, yeah, it's just not there. His EP is it, I think, what's going to have 1 extra song on it that I already mixed, like it was done, and he was like, yeah, I'm just not feeling that song anymore, so like,
I mean, yeah, dude.
Done with it. He's like, I wrote that song when I was in LA, and like, I'm completely a different person now, and like, I just don't want to put that on this EP. It just won't make sense. I'm like, cool, great. Then this dude tells me crimes against humanity. Crimes against producers and mix engineers everywhere. He popped off in March, COVID March.
Yeah.
One of his songs is like sitting at like 6.5 million hits on Spotify, like huge. And I listened to it and I'm like, this doesn't sound that great. Like sonically, the song's great. It doesn't sound that good. And I'm like, I asked him, I was like, who mixed Loving You Is a Mountain? And he was like, nobody. He's like, that was just my Ableton session. I just bounced it out when I was done.
Oh, shoot.
And I was like, what?
Dude, that's some balls, dude.
And he was like, yeah, he's like, I actually am thinking about just having you mix that one again and just
re-releasing
it out.
Or just like using the same UPC code and switching it out.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, which he's doing for this other one called Somehow I Knew, which is it's out, but it's on the EP. And what's out, I guess, is like,
just like one of those, like,
I don't know if he had someone mix it or not, but the one I mixed, like, I mixed it. Like, it sounds like someone mixed it, which that just goes to show if you have a good song, it doesn't matter what it sounds like.
Yeah, it does. But it also goes to show that a good mix can elevate it.
A good mix. We hit 1.5 million streams in 2 weeks.
Yeah, dude. Like,
which for a guy who, dude's got like 4,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
He's not Taylor Swift.
No, but he's known in his those 4,000 people.
I can't stand T Swift. But anyway,
but those 4,000 people they know what.
Yes,
they're very
also
influential.
has like a manager and like gets in. When it came out, he was on like 6 different playlists with this song. The one I mixed, just so you can go and listen to it, is called Self.
Mm-hmm.
It's super cool. But it was just, he's got a manager, like, and it's cool. It's weird, but weird in not a bad way.
Yeah.
Like, it's just different mixing for Isaiah and for Israel because it has to go through the management. Like, the management has to hear and approve it.
Yeah, they have to approve it.
So, like, I literally just got a text from him, like, yesterday, and because I sent him the masters for the EP, and he says, bro, thank you so much. Sent to everyone necessary. Whole team loves it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Nice.
And so, like, great.
Which is it's a lot different than where we come from, which is like, band's cool with it. All right,
sick. Like,
it's done.
I'm the producer and I'm mixing it. So like, we'll do a couple of revisions with the Paris Bridge. Like, we'll do a couple of revisions with the band. They'll like it. Great, it's done. It's just odd.
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, management's, I would prefer, which I don't want to talk about this today because everyone will get mad at me, but I prefer management groups to record labels.
Yeah.
Because every record label deal is a hot steaming pile of garbage.
Yeah.
But that's all I'm gonna say. And I know
the Peanut Butter Boys, Paris Bridge Boys, they went through a couple options or something like that.
They took it to a lawyer, and the lawyer was like, if you sign this is bad. You are effectively selling yourself into slavery.
Yeah, this is pretty bad.
The thought that someone can own your songs and not be you just pisses me off to a different degree.
Yeah, it's a really weird situation, and it's really like the only industry where that's like just common practice.
And nowadays the record labels are kind of shaking in their boots because people like Isaiah are getting millions of streams.
Well, and
he's not on a record label.
Across TikTok culture, man, all of these kids are producing like hits in their bedrooms with an acoustic guitar, Olivia Rodrigo,
Billie Eilish,
Trevor Daniels.
Is she on a record label?
She is now.
She wasn't for a while.
Yeah, she
and hitting a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, Ocean Eyes was wildly huge, and it was just her and her brother.
I can't stand TikTok culture either. It just This is the thing. Like, everything, microphones, quality preamps, this camera, like the monitors that I'm looking at right now that are just like right here, is like really high quality stuff that you bought from Sweetwater.
Yep.
Like, you just like hopped online and bought it.
Yep.
Like, back in the day, you had to go to a studio. The Black Album is estimated to cost over $1 million to do for one record.
Yep.
Now, the thing hit billions of streams,
and it's a classic record that
it's got
stands the test
hundreds
of time.
of millions of streams now, and it came out in like 82 or 86 or something in the 80s.
Yeah.
Before streams were a thing, when you had to sell CDs and like vinyls and stuff, and they sold billions of copies of this record. So like,
but also
$1 million.
Budgets looked different back then too.
Yes.
Like, marketing budgets looked different because records sold more. Like, there's a lot of factors that go into that too.
But the fact that Billie Eilish tracked her whole newest record
with her brother in their house.
Let me just clarify. I only know this one for sure. The fact that she tracked Therefore I Am.
No, whole record.
Was it the whole record? I can only speak for that one song because I know that song. Holding a TLM 103, holding it, sitting on a couch.
Which is like a no-no. Sitting while vocal tracking, holding a condenser mic.
If I took this mic off of the stand right now and tried to hold it while we were doing this podcast, you would be like, yo, hey.
What you doing, dog?
Put that back on the stand right now.
But yeah, it's just her. It was her and her brother in
no pop filter.
No, there was a pop filter.
No,
there was a. There's a video. I found some video. I need to send it to you. There's some video of them working and tracking. It's on there. So they did a documentary.
It's on Mixed with the Masters too.
So they did a documentary that was on a Apple TV doc.
Yes.
And there's a lot of footage in that of them tracking.
I'm going by what Phineas said in this one video of Mixed with the Masters that I watched, where he's going through Therefore I Am, and he literally said she's holding a TLM 103.
Yeah. There's video of it, dude.
Or a 108.
It's a 103.
And which is a $800 microphone, $1,200 microphone.
Bro, used $7.
He uses an Apollo.
Yeah,
I think
he uses an Apollo.
so. It's like
he uses an old Apollo too. It's not even like when it's before they upgraded the preamps too.
Yeah, it's like crappy Unison pre's that I don't love that much. But like, and then it's like that record is one. She won like 6 Grammys in one night.
It was crazy
from something that in her bedroom.
In my opinion, arguably one of the most.
I need to know now.
Arguably one of the most like creative.
One of the most influential pop records that's ever come out. In recent years for sure. Like up there with Therefore I Am on Spotify is sitting at 418 million streams.
Yeah, and it's
Bad Guys at like in the billions.
Yeah,
1.8 billion.
And all of that stuff is just mainly samples, and obviously they send it to a mix engineer who did their work.
Have you heard about Bad Guy? When it hits that breakdown, if you're in your car or in a system with subs, turn that crap down because it is gonna bust your sub. Have you heard that story? Oh my gosh, go listen to this in your car and turn it up, turn the sub all the way up, and it's gonna like completely screw you up. So apparently the rumor goes that Billie was in her room where she was producing this song, and she did that section that.
Oh, the ending part. Yeah.
She did that herself.
Yeah.
In her room.
I didn't know that.
And she had her crappy Yamaha HS8s or whatever. She was JBL cheap monitors turned up so loud that they were like, and it was like vibrating the window seals and like all this disgusting stuff. And so when she sent it to the mix engineer, it was like, hey, it's got to have that energy. And I was like, oh my God. When I listened to it, I was like, what?
Yeah.
But then you like turn it down a little bit and listen to it.
It's
without
good
it killing the subs. It's like
there's so much energy, dude.
Everything is there. Like, number one, how the heck did this dude master this? Like, I don't even know how he got it that loud without it just pumping from all the low end. But number two, like
a lot of multiband.
Just do what like this is what I mean by like, no, you don't act like you don't say, can I get this? No, like Billie Eilish sent him a song and she said, I need it to mimic what it did in my bedroom.
Yeah.
And he was like, done. Like easy, no questions asked. Like, here we go.
Yeah.
It's like
it's a hired. There's a difference because it is art, but it's also a hired service at the same time.
Yes.
And
well,
it's finding the balance.
This is the way I think about it, and I think I'm a young producer, and I'm very thankful that I figured this out at a younger age. My job is literally a servant. Like I'm here to serve the artist, and I don't mean like, can I get you some coffee? Like, yeah, if I got to do that, like you need some throat coat. But my job is literally to, number one, serve the song. Like that's important. But serving the artist, example, I do every genre of music. Like I know people say you need a niche, but like I just do it all just because it's kind of the name of the game.
Right now at least.
So it's like working on a record with a lady, and it's a Christian record, kind of Mav City style, upper room vibes, like whatever. And I'm doing everything, producing it, mixing it, mastering it, tracking drums for it, getting the band together. Like it's kind of like a normal thing.
Yeah.
We take them from an iPhone demo all the way up to
fun finished product,
finished mix master. So I'm tracking drums for it. I track drums for one song and I send it to her, and she just calls me and she's like, "That's not it. That's the completely opposite direction of what I want to go in." And she sends me songs as references, and then I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I had to like retrack the songs and do them a completely different way. Change the snare out, different drum tones, different mic placements, everything.
Gonna use more room, gonna use more, everything.
Sent it to her. She was like, "This is it. Now track the rest of the record." So I tracked the rest of the 5 songs, 6, however many songs it is. I lose count at this point. Sent them to her, and she was like, "That's it." And I was like, "Great." Now, did I want to retrack that song again? Did I think that my original drum reference was better? Yeah, I think it grooves better. But at that point, I just have to think in my brain, when this song comes out on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, YouTube Music, whatever it's going, everything it's going out on, it's not going to be my name on it.
Yeah.
So you'd be surprised the amount of artists that come to me that say, hey, here's my last record. I really hate it. I don't like the way it sounds. I hate that.
Yeah, that's
like that.
Sad.
Legitimately, like hurts my heart, hurts my feelings.
From coming from like having done music for so long, you know what I'm saying? It's like
I want to be able to have an artist listen to their record and be like, I love this
for sure.
Like this is the best thing I've ever done. Like this makes me happy. This is music I want to listen to. Like I never want an artist to listen to their songs 8 months later, a year later, and be like, man, I wish we would have done this. Man, I wish we could have. I don't know. Heaven forbid, man. I wish I would have like got a different producer. Like,
yeah, man. That's
it's just
so sad.
like, God, I don't like that. So it's like, for me, I'm not gonna charge extra if I don't get it right. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah.
Like I'm
yeah.
not gonna.
That's not their problem.
It's not their problem. It's my problem.
Yeah.
And then like, I currently like there was a while where I only did a certain number of mix revisions for a song, and then I contemplated like charging by the mix revision, and then I was like, that completely conflicts with like everything I believe, like what I just said about like I'll do as many mix revisions as it takes, like
to get it to the point of where you are happy.
Bipolar,
Paris
Bridge, their biggest song. 500,000 streams, like whatever. Breakout, really good for a breakout band, not on a label that's doing it all themselves. I had to completely remix that song. Like I sent it to them and they were like,
not it.
This sucks. And I guess I was just going through a bad day or something. I don't know. I was like, what actually happened was they sent me, it was something like 12 to 15 mix revisions.
Yeah.
And at that point,
and it was so much, it was like such drastic changes that you were like, I just need to
at that point, it's like, usually when I get mix revisions, it's like 3 or 4 things. If I'm lucky, just like one little tiny thing. If I'm really lucky, none.
Yeah.
But it was like 12, 13, 14 different things. And I was just like, hey, I just texted, we have like a group chat, and I was like, I'm just going to redo this. I'm going to give it like a few days, just not listen to it, and I'm going to just redo it.
Come back to it with fresh ears. That's the best way to do it, man.
So then we came back to it. I came back to it, mixed it, and sent it to him, and there was like 2 revisions. Yeah. And it was like so much closer. And I was just like, cool. I don't ever want them, because if we would release that first one, and if I would have been like, no, I'm not doing that. It would have been, they would hate it. And
it wouldn't have done as well.
And you got to think, they're going to play this song.
Yeah. Yeah.
Forever.
That's the other thing, like from our perspective, that you don't maybe think about working with somebody. It's like, your name's probably not going to be on it, more than likely, unless you're a featured like producer or artist or something.
I've been doing
like
this for like 5 years.
Yeah.
I just got asked. All I did was track drums and edit the drums for the record of this band. And the guy texted me and said, what do you want us to credit you for? Like, would you rather like be a like producer, or would you rather like be an engineer? I was like, well, technically I did both. So you could say drum tracking and just like a co-producer.
Yeah.
And he was like, done. And that's the first time that like had happened.
Yeah.
When someone asked me, like, some people just put it on there.
Yeah.
But like all the songs I've worked on, if you can go to Spotify and like look at the producer credits, my name's not in any of them.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, dude. That's something that I feel like needs to change. It's like a mutual respect thing from like the producer and the artist and the engineer and the artist. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I get it.
Yeah.
Especially whenever you're going to release day. This is something that just needs to be a part of your checklist, is like crediting people correctly. Well, because like, honestly, that's how our livelihood moves forward.
People see, oh, Shane did this, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I started mixing for Israel. It's like, I did Isaiah stuff, and Isaiah's like, yo, this dude is like
dude's tight.
The real deal.
Yeah.
And they sent me something. It was great. But it's like I'm trying to think of the correct wordage to put it as, but it's not like it matters.
Yeah.
But it's just like when a lot of times, here's how I put it. There's one artist that I work with that when his songs come out and I put them on my story, like, because I try to do that a lot.
For sure.
And I say, like, plug myself and say, like, hey, I mixed this song, like,
you
guys check it out. He will not repost those stories.
Yeah.
If I don't do that, he will repost the stories. And it's like, hey man, like,
yeah, it's like
that's kind of a crappy thing to do.
Yeah, we gotta get our bread too, bro.
I just got married like in December.
Yeah.
Like, you just had a kid.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
All this stuff. Like, hey, what?
We trying to make a livelihood
Told you I
out
was gonna do
here.
this a lot. Hello.
Yeah.
Can you help me out, please? I'm trying to eat.
I'm trying to not live off 100% Taco Bell.
Yeah. Whoa, hang on. Wait a minute.
I said 100%.
Yeah, my wife. Let me rephrase it. My wife won't allow me to live off 100% Taco Bell only.
There you go.
I could and have done it.
So I was gonna say let's talk about some drum tracking.
Okay.
We kind of skipped over your intro to like how
Straight
you got
to
here.
mixing. Yeah.
But we went kind of straight to mixing.
We
But
went
you
to the
can kind
come
of, but drum tracking will kind of involve your come up into engineering and all that kind of stuff. So let's start with drums and like kind of how you got into everything.
Man, if there's one thing I want my studio to be known for, it's
dope drums.
Can I say bad words on this podcast?
Sure.
It's badass drum tones is what I want to be known for. I want to be known as that guy who like, oh, we got tracks from Shane. Don't put samples on them. We don't need it.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously it's genre specific. Like,
Yeah,
but I can tell you,
sure.
Kylie stuff, a lot of this worship stuff, I don't do samples. Like the New Spring stuff that I mix.
Yeah.
We're doing like not a club song, but like
Yeah.
Kind
Or
of
like
vibe.
EDM kind of song.
And I tucked in a like 808 sample on the kick.
But that's like an augmentation thing.
Yeah, that's not like replacing anything.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't want to sound like a douche or anything, but like I just hear drums in a different way. It's because I'm a drummer.
Yeah.
They have to sound a certain way.
For sure.
That's why if Andrew will always send me a mix and be like, what do you think about this? And I always have something to say about the drums.
You're
I'm like, I don't give a crap about anything else but the drums.
But the
Hey, man,
drums.
can you just send me the Pro Tools session? I'll just fix it for you. No, it's a lie. Andrew gets like some really killer, super solid drum tones. But I'm the kind of guy, drum tone wise, that's like, of course we're going to use samples. Like I've been using samples recently to augment the room more than anything.
That's what I've found is there's a certain tick, especially with like metal. There's a certain tick that kicks need to have.
It's really hard to get out of a kick drum.
It's basically
you have to have the right kick drum.
Yeah, exactly. And most people don't.
No one does.
So it's just easier to just have that top end.
Not
sample.
everyone can be Ocean's 8 Alaska.
Bro,
what's his name? Which they don't use samples.
Yeah, I know.
They don't edit him.
He's nuts.
They don't edit him at all.
He's crazy.
Go look up Ocean's 8 Alaska's drummer. He has specifically. There's this one video where they're just in the studio tracking the record, and he's like, they say things like, yeah, he'll do this one part like 12 times until he gets it right. They're tracking drums for 12 hours at a time.
Yeah, dude.
And he's like dripping sweat.
But their parts are crazy. Also,
super intricate.
Yeah,
samples. The only band in metal that I know that's not using samples.
Yeah.
Which I don't hate. I'm not Glenn Fricker. Well, Glenn Fricker loves samples now, but whatever.
He does now. But
I'm not Glenn Fricker. Paris Bridge stuff is like sample city. Like just because it's heavy music.
Yeah, and it's genre specific.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like
you've been playing drums for how long?
20 plus years.
Yeah, dude.
Since I was 7 years old.
Heck yeah.
So it's like,
and like on a professional level,
on a professional level since I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
I've been getting paid to play drums since I was 12.
Yeah.
So it's like, for me, instead of the way I work, so if you ever want to come work with me, the way I work is it's got to be right going into that microphone.
Yep.
We can do a little bit of stuff later, but I want I want 80% of it to be right going into that microphone. So if you ever come to my studio, I have a wall of snare drums. I literally own 18 snare drums, and they're not sound percussion snare drums. I have. So like for me, it's like you got to have the Black Beauty.
Yeah.
I
gotta have the Supra.
I have 2 Supras. One's from the 70s. It's a 14x5. One's newer, like early 2000s. It's a 14x6.5.
Copperphonic.
I don't have a Copperphonic because
they expensive.
Yeah, but you gotta have a 60s acrylite
for sure.
Like,
yeah.
You gotta have your like boutique wood snare. For me, it's like the Tema birch and walnut, which is like birch is super punchy, walnut super fat, so you get both the things. You gotta have like a big fat thing, so I have a 14x11 field drum, like a Ludwig 60s field drum.
I've seen that.
And then I have a 15x12 50s era WFL that's like doesn't get pulled out a lot, but when it does, goodness gracious, she does this job. Like,
when you hear it, you're like,
oh,
that makes
it just
sense.
goes like that's all it does. I have a piece of paper taped to the head. It just goes. It farts and it's awesome. It
farts in the best way.
In the best way. I have a 14x8 DW brass, which I'm trying to sell. So if anyone wants to buy it, just let me know. Because I have a Black Beauty, I don't need another brass thing, dude. I have like everything. Like, so. For me, it's like, oh, snare's not sounding right on this song. Instead of saying, I'll just throw a sample on it. I'm like, no, what do we want? We want it tighter? Okay, let's put that 13x7
for sure
up there. Oh, we want it like fatter? Okay, well, let's take the Black Beauty and tune her down a little bit and just go boom, like that kind of stuff. I have 6 different drum kits. Like, I just bought a new one.
Yeah, you did. She pretty.
Yeah, she's gorgeous, which I can talk about the story of that one. It's steel, but CNC, player date 2, Bonzo sizes, 24, 14, 18, and it came with the Superphonic. So I didn't just buy 2 Superphonics because...
Bro, it came with one too?
Let me just tell you the story.
Okay.
So I had just bought my Black Beauty, which, don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna I don't just spend money to spend money. I try to find the deal. I got a Black Beauty for $570.
That's a great deal.
Because it was B stock, which if you don't know what B stock is, with drums and guitars and everything, B stock means it comes from the factory. So this snare came from the Ludwig factory with a cosmetic defect.
Yeah.
But they don't affect the tone.
Yeah.
At all.
It's the same. It's just
so I get the drum and it comes in a Ludwig box.
Yeah.
Came from the factory in Monroe, North Carolina. So I get the box, open it up, and I'm looking for it. Like I'm looking for the big old scratch just like down the side of it, like whatever. Can't find anything.
Yeah.
If I were to hand you this Black Beauty right now,
that guitar that you're sitting next to was a B stock.
You would never know.
You can never. Yeah. There's nothing about it that says, hey, there's a giant scratch on this thing, or hey, there's a tweak,
the tiniest nick like right next to one of the lugs, but I had to like polish the shell before I saw it.
Yeah, and you don't even know if you did that or not. Yeah,
I have
point.
No idea. So like, whatever. So Black Beauties are like $800. Yeah, $700. So I got a good deal for that. So then I play at New Spring Church at the Broadcast Campus in Anderson. So I bring my Black Beauty and they're like, oh, that thing sounds sick. And the front of house guy is married and has like 1 million kids. So he obviously can't just buy drums that he sees on Craigslist all the time. So he sends them to me, which is terrible.
He's like, I'm gonna live vicariously.
That's
through
literally
your,
what he
through
says.
Your
so
wallet.
my wife hates him. Not really, but she's just like, her can't be sending you Craigslist stuff anymore. So he says like, hey dude, I saw this. He knows I want a CNC kit. I've always wanted one. I love the way CNCs sound.
I think Tanner had one.
Tanner
right?
has one.
Or he has one. Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, he brought it in and he was like, I think I saw you posting about it and you were like, oh my gosh.
I need this. Which he leaves, a lot of times he leaves his drum kit at the studio.
Yeah.
For like me or Jay to use it, which I've never used it because I just haven't felt like I needed to use it.
Yeah.
But it was like, man, his kit, we changed heads on it one time and it's just like, he hands me the floor tom and is like, tune it. And I'm like, okay. And I'm just like, just gave it a couple turns and it was like, boom, done. Like, it took me 3 minutes. So I was like, man, I need to get a CNC, but I want something that's like I don't want your typical like kit sizes. I want something different. Like I got all the kit sizes.
Yeah, you need a flavor kit.
Yeah, so front of house guy in New Spring sends me this. Well, he was like, I didn't want to send you this because like it looked a little sketchy.
Yeah,
and I was like, dude, send it to me.
Sketchy
like,
is my middle name.
I don't care.
Dog.
Like, send it to me. Craigslist ad, and the guy posts. It's a CNC player date 2. Like I said, 24, 14, 18 with a 14 by 6.5 Superphonic. And he's like, yeah, I'll include like a snare stand if you want it for the rack tom too, for $1,400.
Holy crap.
And I was like, it is sketchy because he didn't post pictures of the kit. He posted the picture that you would download from like Drum Center or Portsmouth.
Yeah,
or like,
yeah. The stock, like whatever.
Like there's like a wall of snare drums behind it. It's like a professionally taken photo.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is a little sketchy. I know, $1,400 for this kit's like $3,000. Like
the kit alone is like $3,000.
So
Not to mention the snare is like a $700
snare drum. Yeah, snare stand, whatever. Which we'll get into that in a minute. So it's in Abbeville, which is about an hour south of here.
Yeah, something like that.
An hour south.
Hour or two, depending on traffic.
It was an hour for us.
Okay.
Going from my studio on Woodruff Road. It was an hour.
A little closer.
So I email him and I'm like, hey dude, can I get some pictures of it? Like, I just want to see some pictures of it.
Yeah.
And he's Sketch City sends me pictures of them in a closet. Like it's just like stacked up.
Yeah.
I just really just wanted to see if he had it.
Yeah.
So he sends me the pictures and I'm like, great. Can I come see him? He was like, yep, I'm available Friday or Saturday. I was like, Saturday, done. I instantly pick up the phone and call Tanner. I'm like, hey, I got a good deal on a CNC. You got to come with me to see it. Like, you know CNC's better than I do. Like, I need to know. So we drive down there, walk in this dude's living room. It's sketchy. Like, he lives in historic Abbeville, so his driveway is too small for me to park my car in. So I have to pull up on the sidewalk. And it's just weird. So I walk in, dude's tatted, like neck tats, and I'm like, I'm not opposed to tattoos, but I'm just like, there's a certain
that's extra.
There's a certain connotation to people who are like neck tatted down to their fingers.
If they're not in a band.
Which he is in a band. So we start talking and I walk in and the kit's just like sitting out. I'm looking at it. It's got dust on it. Like it's just been sitting in a closet for a few years. Brand new heads. Not only that, but he's got a kick pedal sitting out. He's got 2 snare stands. And he was like, yeah, you can take all that if you want it. And I was like, yeah, you said $1,400, right? And he was like, yep. So I handed him like $1,000 in cash and Venmoed him $400. The kit's in perfect condition. Not only does he give me the kit, the snare for $1,400, he gives me a kick pedal with a vintage Danmar red wooden beater that you can't buy anymore.
Yeah, they don't
places.
sell those anymore.
And a kick pedal. He gives me the DW 9000 series Tom snare stand. That's like a $300 snare stand. And a Gibraltar snare stand. It's like the ball and like pulling. Yeah. That's like a $150 snare stand.
But it's a nice snare stand.
Amazing. For like freaking
nothing.
$1,400.
Yeah, dude.
I couldn't say no. Tanner was like, I have $1,400 in my pocket right now. If you would have said no, I would have bought this kit.
Yeah.
Brand new heads on it, which they had clear emperors on it. That's a drummer take. I don't love clear heads. Depends on what I'm doing. So we just drove to Guitar Center after that and got some heads. Tanner bought a snare drum while we were there. We took it back to the studio and spent like 2 hours just like dialing this kit in. And the kick drum on this kit, it's like, I can't even explain it. It's just like, it just sounds amazing.
Yeah. No
samples required. Tracked a song on it the next day, mixed it, didn't use samples.
This is kit number 4, right?
This is kit number 6.
Okay. So you added more. You've added more since
I have my original. Everyone knows me. If you know me, my signature is the purple sparkle, which I bought for like $125 off a guy. All that to say, you don't have to pay $3,000 for a kit. Yeah. You can buy, I think it's an Atema Imperial Star, and it sounds amazing. Yeah. The first 2 Parish Bridge records were tracked on it until Christian got his kit. Yeah. And she has an anchor kit, which is awesome. Yeah. Which he doesn't even bring to my studio anymore. When Christian comes to my studio, I don't even think he brought sticks this last time.
He just
shows up and he was like,
let's go.
Let's do it. And I was like, sick. He did have to bring his double kick pedal because you don't have that. I don't have that. Because if you play double kick, you have a double kick pedal. Yeah. So I have my Imperial Star. I also have this really weird kit. It's a tie kit that I found in a shed, and it sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have another tie kit that was owned by the dude in the Marshall Tucker Band.
Yep.
So he toured with it, and it's my like gospel flavor kit. It's like 8, 10, 12, 14,
super tight.
22
Everything's
kick,
like real tiny. Yeah.
Like whatever. Then I have
real high tight snare.
Oh yeah, like whatever you want. Which, funny enough, this kit came with a snare, and it was the kit I grew up playing on. So my dad let me have it for the studio, and it had been sitting in his shed, another shed kit. Like it had been sitting in his shed for
Bro, you got a good luck with shed kits. Shed and closet kits.
Sheds and closet kits. I don't know what it is, but it had been sitting in like an outside shed for like 5 years. Like the heads were melted together. Like I had to take it apart and clean it, but I chose not to clean the snare, and I just left it.
And it just has a
like
cool
it's got
sound.
Dirt in it. Like you pick it up and you do like this, and it goes crackle,
it rattles.
Crackle, like when it works, it works.
Yeah.
So I got that kit. Then I have, moving into the non-shed kits. I have a Gretsch R1 that's like before the Renowns were like player entry kits.
Yeah.
It's got like die-cast tubes, and it sounds amazing. It's 24, 13, 16. I'm currently selling it because I just bought the CNC, and I don't need a big 24-inch kick drum anymore.
Yeah.
I don't need 2 of them.
Yeah. You got, and the CNC one is just,
it's just
a little better
money.
Yeah.
Then I have the Rogers, my baby, 64 Rogers, the vintage flavor.
I remember when you got that and you sent me samples of it.
Yeah, she's awesome. Then the CNC, but I also have like some like random bits and bobs. Like I have this kick drum that I have on loan from a guy that's like a 64 single tension Ludwig, and like I have all this stuff.
Yeah.
So basically, I have enough to get it right at the source.
Yeah.
Which is the whole point of this conversation is
For
I love samples, but for me specifically, like I can never get samples on toms to sound right. I don't know what it is about me. Like your mixes, I'm sure they're sampled to high heaven with toms, probably replaced. I can't tell because it's so well done.
Yeah.
I can't get it to do that. Like I don't know. So it's just like, if anything, the toms have to be right. Like we can replace the kick for all I care. Like I don't care. So it's just like one of those things. And I've recently found a good way to do it. I have to just MIDI it.
Yeah.
Instead of triggering, like using trigger to trigger toms. We did the newest Slackjaw record, and the kick and toms were done with electronic drums, but it's real snare and real cymbals.
So that's we did for the heirloom stuff. All of the kicks are a MIDI pad.
Yep.
Just because it's actually easier.
It is
what we've found in that type of metal. It is easier to just have your kick be a pad because your patterns are so specific.
Yep. And they can change. Like they did the whole Common Courtesy A Day to Remember record without that because they walked in the studio with like 50 or 60 songs.
Yeah. And they're like,
and you can't ask the drummer to learn all those songs.
Yeah, we don't know exactly what is going to happen here. So yeah.
But yeah, so we did that because they wanted a specific sound, and it was like, it is not going to be able to be achieved without samples. So, I mean, it could be, but y'all don't want to be in the studio tracking drums for 6 months.
Yeah.
So we're just going to roll this way. And it was great. And my computer's a little bit older, so I'm scared to update it to the newest operating system. And the operating system was one away from being able to just MIDI, like USB, the module in.
Oh, yeah.
So what I had to do was set each output to be like kick, tom 1, tom 2, tom 3. And I just recorded the audio. Like
then used it as like the MIDI triggers.
Yeah, and I just piped those to his ears so he could hear what he was playing. Then I hate the new Pro Tools convert to MIDI, so I just went in and dropped them in like by hand, the MIDI notes.
That's what I use. I use Trigger for that a lot of times. Or there's a plugin.
I just didn't like because it was electric drums with real drums. There was like the toms were always firing, so like there's this like doom 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 boom doom 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 doom.
So
like,
yeah,
with the snare.
I have a plugin for you that is gonna change your life.
Well, luckily this dude doesn't do tons of like tom hits, so it was easy for me to just be like MIDI, humanize it, and then it's weird. Like you send that MIDI to Trigger.
Yeah.
Because I don't use SSD because I don't want to pay another $100 because I don't do this very often.
I just use Trigger.
Yeah, just send it to Trigger and fire it off.
I found that Trigger is just a little cleaner, a little easier to use. And actually, the gate on Trigger, even if you don't,
it's the greatest gate,
dude. It's
that has ever been created. FabFilter pales in comparison.
Dude, I use it. I'll put a trigger on a track on drum tracks. Like my template is just triggers on drum tracks at the beginning of everything.
Absolutely same.
With a couple preloaded samples in, but they're not on. None of it's on. The only thing that's on is the gate.
This is a really random thing that I've been doing is mono triggering.
What do you mean?
Like, used to, if I get a snare sample and it's in stereo, I'm just going to leave it in stereo. But recently, I've just been doing I've been breaking my samples out into like with this specific record, I had to print a tom sample, close mic sample, a tom overhead sample, and a tom room sample. And then I blended them in the real overhead so that it sounds real. Like you'll never be able to tell that this is like that.
Oh, yeah.
So like that kind of stuff, but like with snares and kicks specifically sticking to mono samples. Or like not mono samples, but like making them mono.
Yeah, getting them down to mono. It does.
Because sometimes there's a little room, something on there.
Yeah, it does do something to it.
It just keeps it tighter to me. It's really subtle. It's one of those things that like no one's going to notice.
And honestly, we might just be playing ourselves on that.
Yeah, I'm
too.
probably playing myself, but it's like something about seeing just one instead of two LED lights like go up. It's just And that way, if I've been finding this, I don't mix with outboard gear. Just because I hate it. I hate recalls. I hate doing it.
Yeah, because you did for
for a little while. I have a lot of outboard. Like I just use it for tracking because I'm like I want to get it right tracking.
Yeah.
Like I pride myself on vocals specifically. You've gotten vocals for me. Just pull the fader up and it's there. Like you might have to do a little carving to fit it in the mix you're doing. But it's like pristine. Recently I've been tracking 3 mics on a vocalist at all times.
So you have options.
Oh yeah. Well, what I'll do is they're all going through nice pre's, all going through nice compressors and EQs, going into the box, and they're all level matched so that we will track the take and then come into the room. Because I'm a big committer. Like that's why we were talking about this before the podcast started. I'm not a slate mic lover. Like I'm not one of those because I can't commit to the mic sound.
And the like that's why we like the Townsend and the Antelope.
You can put it on there. You can put it on there and just
it stays. Print it. Yeah.
But hey, if any of you companies are listening, figure out just make it a closed system. Make it a mic that goes to a box that you can change the mic on, and then I can run it through outboard because that's what's killing it for me.
Yeah.
But we won't talk about that. For me, it's like we'll come in the room, listen to all 3 mics. I'll let the vocalist choose, and then get rid of the other 2. And just roll with that. Because it's like, why would I double or triple my vocal gigabyte count when I don't have to? But
are you tracking at 48?
Oh, I'm always at 48.
I'm at 48 too, except for podcasts. I'm at 44.1 because it doesn't really matter. But when you start stacking those vocals on top of it, dude, a 48K vocal track, like when you have 60 of them,
she gets rough. Jay was doing 88.2 for a while, because
he's got that high. He's got that high Antelope
and I was just stuff. Which a lot of my stuff is run through optical or ADAT cable. So if I did 88.2, I'd have to cut my input count in half.
And you would you'd have to get some sort of changeover system, which would be expensive.
Which no one's ever said anything. Actually, I've had people ask me to send my masters in 44.1. Because usually when I send a master, I'm just going to send a 48.24.
48K 24, yeah. That's what I do.
Now I'll send two of them.
Yeah.
But Isaiah was like, yeah, I need you to send me a 44.1 16-bit. Because
it's for CD printing.
Which they won't convert it for you.
No.
So it's like, it's going to get summed down to 44.1 anyway. Like, what you listen on Spotify is like
a 44.1
terrible. So it's like
it's
whatever.
41.16.
Why would I do anything else? The whole Chris Lord Algae setup. Have you seen this? He
is it the 99 or the 98?
It's
whatever.
2 different Pro Tools rigs. It's like his mixing rig, which is like connected to the SSL. And like all its outboard.
The big one that everybody sees.
Yes, it's at 48 24.
Okay.
Then the outputs of that go to a separate Pro Tools rig with like separate D to A's and like a separate like
So basically like a clone
whatever,
system.
and that's at 96.
Why?
Because he says it makes sense. He says by the time I get here and mix it, there's so much information that if I sent it back 48, you'd lose some of the stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's why I do a separate Pro Tools rig as well, because I don't want to print it back into the same session. So they have a separate rig that, and I mean, like when you're Crystal Algae and you're charging 10 grand to mix,
whatever.
like, yeah, you can do whatever you want to.
Yeah.
But no one I know has the luxury of doing that.
Yeah.
I'm literally just like sending everything to a mix bus that's sent to a print track. Like, and then I print it because I came from working in Pro Tools 10 when they didn't have offline bounce. So, and there's like been a couple times with Pro Tools, which we won't get started on how much I hate Avid and Pro Tools, but I just have to use it because that's what I know.
And updating and all of that stuff.
Oh my God. Like offline bounce in Pro Tools can sometimes like add these weird blips and artifacts and stuff that I don't like. So it's like printing.
Especially if it's a really heavy session.
Yeah, you got a lot of stuff going on, like whatever. But yeah, anyway, back to drums. Yeah, I have everything. Like,
yeah. I think that's something that I think me and Josh have been talking about it a good bit lately, but it's printing more often, committing more often, or committing earlier as soon as you can, and getting the staples, like what so you got the Supraphonic, you got the Black Beauty, you have your basic sizes, like you basically have your 3 kits that are like your basic sizes, and then you have your fun kits for flavor.
Kits. Yeah, like we're doing a vintage track. Let's do this. Or we're doing a big friggin',
which you could get away with your basic 3 kits, but you
have to sample, have to do all this stuff.
Yeah, or just like having a guitar that does really good things, having a couple options, having a bass that does really good things.
My options come with miking stuff.
Yeah.
Like I always have a kit set up and I always have like similar miking. But I'll just try random stuff, but keep the staples. So like I'm always doing snare top and bottom.
Yep.
I usually will always do 3 mics on a kick. Recently, like with the CNC, I don't have to.
In-out room?
No, I will do in-out sub kick.
Okay.
Because the out mic I found is more that like 100 hertzy thing.
I have ended up triggering my sub kick from now on.
Yeah, just doing like a sine wave or whatever. Yeah, it works. But more on that later. So that I'm always like, the core is like kick in, kick out at least.
Yeah.
Snare top, snare bottom, tom 1, tom 2, overheads, stereo rooms.
Yeah.
Now I'll add a crotch mic. Recently I've been doing like
a hall mic, like somewhere way down or something like that.
No.
I know Jay is a fan of the hall mics.
Yeah, because Jay has a killer hall. Like my hallway is like meh. Like to me, it's just like meh.
Yeah.
So I'll do a Blumline pair of fat heads that are going through 1176s, and in the box they're slammed. So like I'm not doing that because slamming compression with plugins doesn't work as well to me, and it just sounds different.
I could see that.
I like the way my 1176s sound. And then I do a super clean pair of far rooms that's not getting any kind of nothing. They're just straight pre's going in, and that changes. I've done SM81s. I've done it's just whatever pair of mics you have on hand.
Yeah.
I like the Warm Audio 47 Juniors on toms, but I've been using 57s on toms recently, so it's like,
dude, it's a classic, bro.
Yeah, it just works.
It works. It cuts out a lot of bleed.
Yeah, I typically hate 421s, but I just acquired a pair, and I like them.
Original 421s also sound a lot better than
these are new 421s, and I really like them. So I guess I've just been wrong my whole life, but whatever. Or my ears have just changed.
It's probably your ears have just developed to like, no, I used to hate 421s too.
It was just like I'm looking for a specific tom sound, and when I put a 421 on it, it doesn't
give you that sound.
No, it does now.
Oh, it does now?
It's like, oh, hey, here's that sound.
So for me, it was always the 421 I was looking for a certain sound, and the 421 would do like the opposite of what I wanted it to do.
Yeah, I guess now I just want the opposite of what I want.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Because
like,
you were probably looking for more of a scoop sound, and now you're
scooped,
looking
super bright, like
And-
really big. I was putting large diaphragm condensers on it,
exactly. So now you're
which
looking for
becomes
more of
expensive when you track a lot of drummers that don't know what they're doing.
true. Yeah, especially when they beat the
A
crap.
421 can take a beating.
Yeah,
Or a 57. Good lord, I could drop it off
Yeah.
a building.
exactly.
Recently, I've been putting a 7B on my snare too, so I just have an influx of 57s.
Yeah.
I own 5 of them, and I own 2 Unidyne 545s.
Mhm.
Which, when I have to give these 421s back, I'll put those on toms.
Yeah. So,
But
yeah, now you're looking for more of the rounded like MIDI
Yeah,
tom sound.
yeah.
So yeah, it's just
that
your
200
flavors.
hertz, 300
Yeah,
hertz thing.
your flavors just changed.
But dude, there's this company called 12 gauge microphones that literally make microphones out of shot off shotgun shells.
That's amazing, and I need to buy one.
They're like $30
Heck yeah.
for an Omni one. I bought a pair for $60, and then I bought a cardioid one, and they're like $45. It's $60 for a pair of microphones.
Yeah,
Now they can't take a ton of SPL. Like you couldn't put them on a tom. They make a high SPL version, which is cool. But I put this cardioid one over as an
rooms,
overhead.
dude. Yeah,
that's what I've been
guitar
doing. For
mic,
rooms.
like for like acoustic, like you need a pair to track
It's cool.
acoustics. Yeah,
Which Jay's just down the hall, so it's like I have access to Coles and
yeah. So and that's
Whatever.
the other thing.
R88s and
Yeah,
whatever.
that's the other thing is you share your studio space is kind of a shared studio space.
Yeah.
More recently, obviously.
Yeah, the last year or two.
Yeah, it was right before COVID when he sold his house, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, he moved in with a lot of very nice, like
Yeah, we got
vintagey
everything.
microphones. Between the two of you,
I have
you
the,
got it
I have the
covered.
kits.
yeah,
He has the mics.
he has a ton
so
of
like
mics.
he's come down
Did
the
he
hall.
bring
and
his
just-
kit?
Yeah, his Gardner.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which I also like that kit
it's
too.
great. He's come down the hall and been like, "Hey, can I use your whatever?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then I'll come down the hall and be like, "Hey, I'm tracking a really spitty vocal. Can I use your Coles or like?"
Yeah,
But yeah,
he was using Soyuzes for a while too.
Soyuz, which he got rid of.
Yeah, I know he mentioned the other day he got
It's
rid of
pretty much
those.
like all the mics that I don't have, he
He's
has,
got,
and all
yeah.
the mics he doesn't have, I have.
He's got the weird European microphones,
yeah,
and you have all of the American
I
microphones.
got the standards.
Yeah,
like,
you got the basics.
which, dude, let me
And-
tell you something. We've talked about this, but just for everyone out there, I don't have incredibly expensive gear.
No, you don't
Like
actually.
we've painted me to be like this dude who's got like all this stuff. I don't.
Yeah,
I have 557s. I don't own the 421s. I use like my favorite mic right now is the Warm Audio U87 clone.
yeah, dude.
It's like $700.
It sounds really good too, and the Junior even sounds
The
really
Junior
good.
sounds great. The dude, I know Glenn Fricker shits on him a lot, but the Clark Technic stuff,
Oh yeah, it's good.
like
I think
you've gotten a lot of vocals from me.
Yeah.
Do they sound bad?
no,
Because they're
never.
going through Clark Technic stuff.
Yeah, and
I have a pair of the Pultecs, a pair of the 1176s, and their LA2A.
and like a lot of this stuff, your drums are the most expensive things about your studio.
Yeah, because that's the source. Like I want it to sound right.
Yeah, exactly. It's like your speakers.
For me, it doesn't matter what it's going at, like
Yeah.
what the chain is.
Yeah.
If the thing sounds like a butt, it's gonna sound like a butt in Pro Tools.
Yeah, and mics are only going to do so much, and pre's are only going to do so much. And I mean, obviously, we figured this out first from years of trial and error. It's the mics will do 5%.
Yeah.
The pre's will do 1%.
Yeah.
Really. Your conversion,
I would say 0%.
I would say, yeah, I would probably put it in the 0.5.
yeah, it's
1%.
not. It's not enough for you to.
Really bad conversion can be very bad.
Yes,
But
it's not
once
enough
you
for me
get
to
to
want to
the-
run out and buy a Symphony.
no, but
or
once you get up to the $500 to $1,000 range in your interfaces,
It's
like
just your flavor. Like
it's just a
I
flavor.
love the Focusrite stuff.
Yeah.
I love the Claret sound.
Yeah,
like it's
exactly.
my favorite. You love the Apollos. Like,
exactly.
it just is what
Whatever.
it is.
So, but it doesn't have to be expensive.
Yeah.
You can find deals like you're finding on Craigslist and
Oh yeah.
Facebook Marketplace and all that kind of stuff. Or you can try the cheaper stuff. It's not bad, but use something that you do that a lot of people don't do is like just be friends with people in the area
Yeah,
and like ask to borrow stuff, dude.
Yeah, Andrew has literally had one of my microphones
know.
for a year now, and I'm like,
All right,
dude.
dope.
and he's
Whenever
just like,
you need it.
yeah, it's like, hey, I don't have a need for it, so like, you can just keep it until he said something about like, I want to get this microphone. Like, yeah, till you get that, just keep it. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
And it like, just that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, dude.
Don't be an ass.
Yeah.
Like, if you can take anything from this conversation, it's a shame that I'm saying this so late in the game of this podcast, but like, just be a cool person to be around.
Yeah, dude.
Like, that's where a lot of my studio stuff comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where I get a lot of my clients, like, I'm not the best engineer in the world. Like, there's things that I do that I wish I could have done different. There's times when I've embarrassed myself. There's times when the things that I've heard, I think that I've done sounds terrible. Like, I just don't love it. But I think when it comes to studio stuff, I'm just like a good person, like a fun person to hang out with.
And so it's having a chill hang is half the battle.
That's the bread and butter. And then for me, it's like having a space that I set up to be just a place where people want to just come and hang out.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I've got the vibes.
Yeah.
So it's like
we talked about this a couple weeks ago. We were doing we did a My First Studio like thing, and at the end of it, we were like, honestly, most importantly is having a place that people actually want to be.
Yes. Well, it's not even that. It's just having a place where people feel creative.
That's what I mean. Like, they want to be. They know when I go to Shane's studio, I feel like I want to write music.
Yes.
When I go
everyone's vibe is different. Like, Jay's vibe is so much different than mine, and my vibe is so much different than yours. And Brad's vibe at 101 is like completely different. But that's just like, it is like, we're just different people. So it's like my studio is an extension of who I am, like, as a person.
Yeah.
And so like, it's not much to look at, but it like, I do good work.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I just want to be the guy who's fun to hang around. Like, because at that point, I don't want to be misconstrued as like a jerk or like someone who like has to have it his way or we're not doing it. Because for me, it's like, there's things that I don't know. I had a dobro come in my studio and I've never mic'd up a dobro before.
Yeah.
So it's like,
it's actually really weird to mic up.
It is. And it's one of those things that's really sensitive. Like, if you put the mic here, it
sounds like, totally different.
Holy crap. If you put it here, it's like, what is that?
Yeah.
And so the guy playing it, I was like, hey man, I'm kind of in the dark here. Like, how do you mic this thing? He's like, I usually just like, I'm trying to mic it like an acoustic guitar. Yeah. Like, I'm like 12th fret in, like point it over, like, look at this
it's
thing.
More like of a, you do it like
well, I do it right here in this hole right here. And I'm like, sick, I'll put it there.
Yeah.
And we plugged it in.
And it works.
And turned it up and it sounded like a dobro. And I was like, sick, great.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think there's a stigma that like, especially with guys that don't, like you and me, who aren't like incredibly well known, who like aren't in the magazines and stuff, there's a stigma that's like, I have to look like I know what I'm doing. Like, I have to act like I've done this before. And it's just not true. It's like, you gotta be afraid. You have to not be afraid to make mistakes and
try stuff.
Admit, the big thing is like, admit when something you've done is not right. So like,
and be willing to go back and fix it.
Yeah, be willing to go back and say like, hey,
that's my bad.
That's my bad. Can we do one more? Like, let me tweak this thing.
Or hey, can I have you come back in? I completely messed up this thing.
I've done that before where it's like, hey, I didn't back this up, so like, I've lost it. Like, can you come back in? Like,
yeah, exactly.
I'm not gonna charge you for it. Or like, hey, the drum thing, like that I was saying earlier, like, hey, I tracked this whole song, like, it's not what you want. Okay, let me do it again.
Cool.
Let me do it till you're right.
My bad. Yeah,
you will get a better name for yourself if you are easy to work with, and you will do what it takes to make your artist happy.
For sure.
Whether or not that's like what you want to do. Did I want to go back and retract that song? No. Are there mixes out of mine that I think the artists have completely ruined them? Yes. But they're not my songs.
Yeah. It's up to them, man. It's their art. And you have to kind of think of it in that way.
Yeah. It's like, this is what they want to do. This is how they love this is the way that they hear their music in their head.
For sure.
That's it.
Dope, dude. I think we're going to call it right there.
Sick.
Because that's about,
we're at
hour and a half.
2 hours,
something like that.
You can get me talking and I'm like a chainsaw. You just crank me up.
Dude, socials. Hit them up with the socials.
You can follow my personal page, which is Shane the Nelson. I don't post a lot of studio stuff there. If you want to see me post about drums, that's where I post it. I have a website. It's for my studio. It's we never even said what my studio name is.
No, but it'll be in the description.
It's Asaph Records, ASAPH. My website is asaphrrecordssc.com. My Instagram socials, I'm really bad about socials, but if you want us to follow the studio, the Instagram is Asaph Records, but Records has 2 S's because someone already had Asaph Records. So at Asaph Records with 2 S's.
All those links to your stuff,
yes,
I'll
send them to
I'll
you.
link you up. I got you on that,
but
just to direct people.
Yeah,
and
dude,
tags
it's
and
just
all that kind of stuff.
It's been a wild. We can say this. I went full time 2 weeks before the shutdown.
Yeah, dude.
And I was like, man, what do I do? But I know not everyone is, but I'm a believer, and I just knew that I worked at a Starbucks. Like,
yeah, dude.
I knew that this is what God wanted me to do, and He's blessed me. So like,
there you go.
That's really where my bread and butter comes from. Like, I know that I have this saying in my household: I ain't shit. I came from nothing. Like, I am a product of what God has done for me. So it's like,
there you go.
When I put myself in that lens, yeah, it's easy to like serve artists
for sure.
So yeah,
dude, thank you so much for coming and hanging out.
It was awesome.
Thanks so much for hanging out. Chase, thanks for running the camera for us. We love you. And we will see you guys next time.
Rock and roll.
And that's it for this episode of the Home Studio Hangout podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Please check us out on your favorite podcasting platform. Leave a review. It helps the show so much. Kind of get out there for new people to find. If you want to watch this, if you aren't already, check us out on YouTube by searching Home Studio Hangout. And thank you so much again for giving us your time and your attention. And remember, keep on creating.